Look at the time right now. Don't just glance. Absorb the digits. Now ask yourself, why did I choose this exact moment to read these words? You didn't. Something rerouted you here. A notification you never opened. A message you deleted but didn't close. A thought that appeared from nowhere saying just one more post. That was not impulse. That was insertion. For the past 11 minutes, maybe longer, your peripheral awareness has been brushing against a signal you could not name. A faint pressure behind your eyes. A sudden need to check this specific platform. You ignored it. Twice, maybe 3 times. But the third nudge broke through. Here you are. This is not coincidence. This is not algorithm. This is invitation by precision. Every scroll, every sleepless night, every strange coincidence of the last 72 hours? That was calibration fire. Your thumb hesitated on videos that described your exact situation. Without naming you, you heard a stranger use a phrase only your childhood best friend knew. A number followed you across 3 screens. A dream repeated the same symbol until you stopped dismissing it. Then this message appeared. Not pushed, not promoted, placed. Exactly where your trained attention was programmed to land. That was a signal flare disguised as boredom. And this text. This is the master key. The one designed to unlock only your current frequency. Not the person next to you, not your mutual follower. You, if your chest just tightened, do not look away. That tightening is recognition. And recognition is the first crack in the wall you forgot was built around you. Quantum physics now confirms what ancient texts whispered across millennia. Observation alters reality. But here is what peer-reviewed papers do not publish. The observer is not always you. Sometimes the observer is a system. Sometimes a belief. Sometimes a silence installed before you learn to speak. Your awareness alone collapses infinite possibilities into a single now. Yet who installed the lens through which you see? Who sharpened the edges of what you call rational? Who blurred the rest into superstition? Let us go deeper. Every thought you proudly call yours passed through invisible filters. Language first, but not just grammar. The emotional weight of certain words. Why does surrender feel weak but control feels strong? Who decided that? Trauma second. Your nervous system remembers threats your conscious mind deleted. That memory shapes every choice you make. Culture third. The unwritten rules about success, time, God, and silence. Exhaustion fourth, because a tired brain accepts simpler answers. And now, the newest filter. Digital breadcrumbs engineered to feel exactly like intuition. You have been fed patterns disguised as preferences. Songs that randomly play exactly when you needed them. Ads that describe problems you never typed aloud. Conversations that echo verbatim in your feed 3 hours later. That is not magic. That is architecture. But here is where physics dismantles the prison. A single entangled particle changes instantly when its twin is measured. No signal travels between them. No time passes, no distance matters. That is not metaphor, that is mechanics. Verified, repeated, still unexplained. Now apply that law to memory, to desire, to the quiet dread behind your ambition, to the sudden urge to check your phone at 3:33 a.m., to the name that appeared in your head moments before the notification arrived. What if someone or something has been subtly directing what you notice, not through force, not through fear, through something far more elegant, irresistible curiosity? A breadcrumb so perfectly placed that following it felt like free will. A question so precisely timed that answering it felt like discovery. What if your curiosity was never yours to begin with? What if it was borrowed, loaned to you by a version of yourself that already woke up and left this trail for you to find? Not as prophecy, as proof that awakening is not becoming new. Awakening is remembering you were never truly asleep. Just distracted, on purpose. And this message? This is the distraction breaking its own spell. Scientists call it the observer effect. Mystics call it the unraveling. Neither side admits they are describing the same fire. When 2 particles entangle, they share one destiny across any distance. Measure one spin here. Its twin instantly knows across a galaxy. No delay, no messenger, no explanation. Now replace particle with person. You are entangled with information you have never consciously read, a fact you never learned, a warning you never received, yet your body reacts. Your pupils dilate at certain symbols without your permission. Your breath changes rhythm near specific colors. Your skin raises into goosebumps before your mind registers why. That is not imagination. That is residual entanglement. Here is what no meditation app tells you. Awakening begins as physical rebellion before it becomes spiritual realization. Your stomach knots in rooms that are perfectly safe. Your shoulders relax near strangers you should not trust. Your dreams replay scenes from lives you never lived. The wall between you and not you is thinner than your thinnest thought. Now take the next step down. Quantum systems remain entangled until observed. Observation collapses them into one fixed reality. But observation by whom? By what intention? What if your daily awareness functions as a continuous collapse? You walk through 1,000 parallel versions of this moment, and your focus selects exactly one. The others do not vanish. They simply become unobserved, alive, breathing, waiting. This is why awakening feels like vertigo. You are not losing balance. You are gaining peripheral vision into dimensions you were trained to ignore. And the trainers, they have names you know, institutions, habits, fears inherited from your great-grandparents' survival instincts, but also softer cages, the apps designed to fragment your attention before your awareness ever reaches critical mass, the entertainment engineered to exhaust your curiosity before it touches the real questions. Entanglement explains why you suddenly remembered a forgotten dream while reading this sentence, why a sound outside your window now feels intentional, why a name from 10 years ago surfaced without trigger. Those are not glitches. Those are signals from your entangled twin, the version of you who already broke through. That version is not ahead of you. That version exists now, simultaneously, in a probability cloud overlapping this exact room. Your body feels it. Your skepticism is the last wall standing, but walls crack when the pressure is applied from both sides. And this message is the pressure. The unraveling has no emergency brake. Once you see entanglement, you cannot unsee it. Every interaction becomes a transaction between collapsing worlds. Every silence becomes a conversation you are not yet fluent in. And that humming sound you noticed 3 paragraphs ago, the one you dismissed as tinnitus or traffic or your own blood, listen closer. That humming is not inside your ears. It is inside the space between your ears and the wall. That is the noise of unobserved realities pressing against your attention. They have always been there. You were just too collapsed to notice. Awakening is not permission to escape. Awakening is permission to feel the pressure without panicking. If your skin is still calm, you are not reading deeply enough. Read again, slower. Stop at every period. Let the space after each sentence breathe. That breathing space, that is where your entangled self lives. Not in the words, in the gaps between. Awakening is not enlightenment. Enlightenment promises arrival, a summit, a trophy. Awakening promises something harder. Opening your eyes inside a moving vehicle with no memory of boarding, no driver, no brakes, only the sudden, vertiginous realization that you have been asleep in the back seat for decades. That voice dissecting this sentence, filing claims into maybe and nonsense, not your only voice. Behind it sits another, quieter, older, unimpressed by credentials, unfrightened by paradox. That voice does not argue, it watches. It has watched since before you learned language, before someone taught you which questions are dangerous. That voice knows this message, not because the message is brilliant, because the message is familiar. Like hearing your childhood home described by a stranger who has never been there but gets every sensory detail exactly right. Recognition happens in the body before the mind catches up. You are recognizing something, that tightening in your throat, that sudden urge to check notifications. That is not boredom. That is the sentry at the gate of your sleeping mind scrambling. The sentry works for the old contract. Ignore it. Here is the old contract whispered into you before you could speak. You are separate. Your thoughts are yours. Your memories are accurate. Time moves forward. Death is an ending. Certainty is the goal. Here is what awakening whispers back. None of that is true. Those were survival strategies, useful fictions. Fictions become prisons when the danger passes but the walls remain. The shift you feel, the pulse change, the chest stillness, the bizarre urge to cry or laugh is not madness. Madness builds walls. This feeling offers none. It sits inside you like a fact you forgot you knew. Oh, right, this again. You are not becoming new. You are remembering old. Every religion, every mystery school, every forgotten tradition shares one confession beneath their rituals. There is a version of you that never fell asleep. That version does not exist in time. It exists in the precise moment you looked up and saw something ordinary become strange. A shadow stretching wrong, your own hand looking unfamiliar, silence suddenly feeling thick enough to touch. That is your entangled self waving from the gap between heartbeats. Quantum physics has an interpretation called the participatory universe. Consciousness is not a byproduct of matter. Matter is a byproduct of consciousness. The universe does not exist until observed. But observation is not a measurement device. Observation is awareness paying attention to itself. You are not a tiny consciousness inside a vast universe. You are the vast universe contracted into a point of awareness, so the universe can finally look at itself from the inside. That is what you are feeling. The inside looking at itself. No wonder it feels strange. No wonder you want to close this message. Distraction is the anesthesia of the sleeping mind. You have read this far. The anesthesia is wearing off. Your tolerance is broken. You can no longer unknow that the hum you hear in absolute silence is not tinnitus. It is the sound of unobserved realities pressing against your attention. They have always been pressing. You were just too collapsed to notice. Now the uncomfortable question. If you have been asleep, who designed the bed? Who built the room? Who turned down the lights? The answer is not a villain. The answer is more unsettling. You did. Not the you reading this sentence. The you before you forgot. The you who agreed to this limitation for reasons you cannot currently access. You chose the forgetting. Because somewhere in the architecture of existence, forgetting is the only way to truly feel remembering. This message is not a rescue. It is a permission slip you wrote to yourself before the amnesia set in. The handwriting matches. Think of the most vivid dream you ever had, where everything felt absolutely real until the moment you woke and laughed at how obvious the illusion had been. This life is that dream, and the version of you outside the dream is not laughing. That version is waiting, patiently, without frustration, because that version knows you always wake up eventually. The only variable is how many nightmares you need before you start questioning the nature of sleep. Look at your reflection in the dark screen, not your face, your eyes. Behind your eyes lives an observer that cannot be observed. Science calls this the hard problem of consciousness. Mystics call it the seer. You have called it 100 names. Intuition, gut, instinct, that little voice. Here is the truth that collapses all names. You are not in the world. The world is in you. Every sound is electrical translation inside your skull. Every color is wavelength converted into perception. You have never touched anything, only your brain's interpretation of pressure. You have never seen another person, only light patterns decoded into an image. You live inside a closed loop of translation taught to call itself reality. Awakening is the loop noticing itself. Now the question that ends all questions. If everything you experience is an internal translation, who decided which translations feel real and which feel imaginary? Who decided the table feels solid but your dreams feel flimsy? Who decided pain is urgent but joy is optional? That decision was not yours. It was inherited, conditioned, installed over thousands of generations. Survival required taking solidity seriously. But survival is not truth. Survival is a strategy. Strategies become prisons when the danger passes but the walls remain. The ability to reverse that decision has always been yours. Unused, waiting, not through effort. Effort is part of the dream. Through recognition. The same way you cannot try to fall asleep, but you can stop trying to stay awake. Awakening is not an achievement. It is a surrender. a giving up of the fight against what you have always known. What happens after you look away from this screen? Two paths. First path, you close the app. You laugh nervously. You tell yourself it was interesting fiction. Within an hour, the feeling fades. Within a week, you scroll past deeper messages without a pause. This path is safe, well-traveled. The dream continues without interruption. Second path, you stay in the discomfort. You do not explain it away. You let the silence after this sentence stretch. 10 seconds, 20, a full minute. You notice your breathing changed and never returned to normal. You admit that something in you knew these words before reading them. This path has no map, only footprints from those who walked before you. They all say the same thing. The fear leaves first.